We're back now with some analysis from our political panel. Ruth Marcus is a columnist with The Washington Post. Reihan Salam is executive editor of The National Review. Molly Ball is a politics writer for The Atlantic. And Jonathan Martin is national political correspondent for The New York Times. Reihan, I want to start with you. Donald Trump, is it essentially now his nomination to lose on the Republican side?
He has big structural disadvantages, but I'd say the biggest advantage that he has is this. You just saw him talking about, all kinds of subjects, but it really is the kind of gut level message. If you look at his support, it is heavily concentrated in parts of the country where over the last 20 years, manufacturing jobs have disappeared in large numbers. And if you look at over the last 20 years, which industry is it that Washington has fought to support? They were really desperate to make sure that our big banks could compete with the banks in London and Tokyo and elsewhere. And so they passed a series of laws to ensure that they were in the best shape to compete globally. Whereas if you look at our industries, if you look at the Rust Belt, if you look at these parts of the country, these are parts of the country where they don't really feel like they've had friends and allies. And Donald Trump doesn't actually talk about deindustrialization or whatever else, but what he does say is that the people in charge are not listening to you. They are fundamentally untrustworthy, whereas I am plain spoken and can be trusted. And whichever candidate is going to win the Republican nomination is someone who can channel that anger and that feeling of being left out and not listened to.
Jonathan, Donald Trump says he's going to win Iowa.
I was so struck by that there at the end, John, because so much of the expectation of these primaries is driven by what the candidates say going in, how they set up their own assumptions about what states they're going to perform well and where they're going to win, whether they're only going to do well. And by saying that, he basically has raised the bar on his own campaign in Iowa, to the point now where if Cruz does beat him, that's going to be even more of a blow for Trump than it otherwise would have. So Trump is so Trumpian, he can't help himself, but in doing so, he has unwittingly sort of raised the bar on himself.
Well, a
Well,
winner has to
deny
win.
that he said it. If he ends up losing.
But a winner has to win, and that's the challenge,
Votes are cast,
isn't it?
yeah.
Right, when the votes are cast. What do you
That is his challenge. But I think to answer your question to Reihan, it is his to lose right now. He may well not win Iowa, and we really still do have questions about whether these Trump voters are actually Trump voters as opposed to Trump supporters. But it is. I think the only word that comes to mind here watching your interview with him, which was terrific, is appalling. In terms of his lack of substance, his lack of deep thinking, his failure to answer really serious questions like the one that you asked him about, what is the implication of your turning up in this ISIS video? Because you've said very hurtful things that really can encourage people to join ISIS, and how do you deal with that? He doesn't have answers to these questions or any serious questions, and I really just find myself thunderstruck that we're at 2016 and at this point.
All right, well, we're going to talk about more of this, Molly, when we get back. All of you sit tight. You sit tight out there. We'll be back with more analysis from our panel.